Perfect. So, good morning and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us on a Saturday morning. And we are here with the second episode of RC Talks. And RC Talks is a series that where we try to bring up cloud experts from different technologies, from rapid cycle folks. We try to put them together and try to gain as much knowledge and experience from the session as much as we can. So I'm here for learning, and I hope you all are here too. But let's try to keep it as interactive as possible. We want maximum participation because we have got best of consultants with us today. So feel free to shoot out your doubts, your queries, and anything, and let's try to keep it fun. All right. So today we are going to be talking about what it's like to be a cloud consultant. Here at Rapid Cycle, everyone is a cloud consultant, but still, even the designation is same. Their work life it varies with the projects that they've been working on and their technical vertical stack, as we like to call it. So yeah, we are going to be talking with each and every expert of that we have on the panel today, and we'll be trying to understand how cloud helps them to help their customers bring out the best out of the ecosystem, Microsoft ecosystem, and other cloud stuff that we have as well. So let's start with introduction first. Alok, I will hand it over to you. Then you can pass it around to rest of the panel. Okay.
Yep, thanks Rohan. Hello and welcome everyone to the second episode of RC Talks. I am Alok. So I obviously am a cloud consultant along with all my panelists here at Rapid Cycle, and I've been working here for 4 years. So definitely not an expert, but I am here to share whatever I have learned so far. I've been working in Azure as well as AWS. And I've also got the chance to work here in blockchain solutions in Rapid Circle. So yeah, a very diverse uh, set of solutions that we work here. But yeah, I think I didn't prepare this introduction at all, so I think I'll pass it over to Shweta.
Okay. Um, I'm audible? Fine. Okay. My name is Shweta. I've been working with Rapid Circle for almost 7.5, 8 years now. And I've been working as a web developer and then extensively working with Azure for the last 6 years. And I've worked on different offerings of Azure, and I've mainly last 2 years I've been working with the innovation lab team at Rapid Circle, wherein we are building a product. So I love working on products, and I love providing solutions to complex problems. Yeah, that's pretty much about me. Pass it. So I have to pass it on. Sorry, I'll pass it on to Ganesh then. Yeah.
I I was waiting for Shweta to pass it on.
Yeah.
Uh,
I forgot.
so
Sorry.
I'm Ganesh, and I have been working with Rapid Circle for more than 6 years now. I started my journey with, of course, web development on Microsoft Stack, and I worked along with Shweta and other folks with in Innovation Lab. After that, I moved to this new role, data engineering role, where I get to work with customers and solve their data integration problems. So yeah, good to be here, and I'm excited to talk about our experiences so far. So yeah, I'll pass it on to Clint.
Thank you. So my name is Clint, and I've been a part of the Microsoft Cloud space for approximately 10 years now, and a part of the Rapid Circle family for about 3+ years now. Over the years, I have spent my time working on Azure infrastructure, automation, and mainly scripting using PowerShell or other languages like Python.
Sounds
So the host.
perfect. So yeah. So thanks for the introduction, guys. And just a very quick fun fact. So Ganesh here, he is my first mentor. So when I joined RC as an intern, Ganesh was my mentor, and he was the first person to hold my hands and drag me along. And another fun fact, we have got two college dropouts in the panel with us, both Ganesh and Alok. So these are the very cool people that we get inspired a lot. I know it's not the best way to sell these people, but yeah, these guys are just amazing, and they're breaking traditions all along in their life. All right, so let's start with questions then, folks. So let's get started with what people are here for. So Alok, I know everyone knows that you are more than just a full stack developer. Like full stack developer is something less for you because you have worked on blockchain, you have worked on multiple cloud providers, you have worked on front end, back end, like you have worked on so many things. So according to you, how does having a diverse skill set help a person to become a better consultant?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Rohan. Yeah, skill diversity is absolutely very important part of being a cloud consultant. So a cloud consultant's job, to put it simply, is to solve problems using the cloud. So if your client presents you with a problem, it will only help you if you are familiar with as many cloud offerings, services, and technologies and platforms as possible. So you have a broader vision uh, when assessing the use case and then providing a solution. So this is not to say that you are to over diversify and learn about every cloud service under the sun, because as we all know, that's almost impossible with hundreds of them right now. But definitely knowing the basics of how they interact with each other or what the cloud services offer will help you being a better cloud consultant. And then you can choose your area of interest and specialize in that area. So you become the go-to person in that area. So I often find myself working in different kinds of in my projects, different kinds of fields. So from front end to writing APIs to doing Kubernetes, managing DevOps pipelines in projects. So how did I learn to do all this? So I have a habit which I called say yes and then learn. So what I do is I say yes to whatever comes along my way and then I learn on the go. So this habit has helped me diversify my skill set. So to recap, it's beneficial to know the basics of different cloud services and how they interact with each other, and definitely not expected that you are an expert in all of them. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yep. And that's an amazing saying, Alok. This also reminds me that one of our customer managers, he also has this saying that don't ask for forgiveness, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. So just pick up the thing first, and then if you just mess it up, you can ask for forgiveness later instead of asking for permission to begin with in the first place. All right, so moving on to Shweta. So Shweta, Alok talked about having a good understanding of different technologies, different services, and things like that. But cloud abstracts a lot of things for us, right? We do not have to deep dive into a lot of things, but it basically provides us a layer of abstraction,
Right.
and we are good to build on top of it. But according to you, how important is it to go beyond the layer of abstraction and try to understand things behind that layer?
Yeah, that is an important question or important thing to remember. I've talked to a few fresh graduates or the people who have spent a few years in industry recently, and when I asked them about what their understanding of cloud fundamentals is, um, first answer that I get is, you don't have to worry about infrastructure, which is extremely correct. That's definitely, that is right on. But it's the word worry that is important here, right? You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to sweat over, oh my God, my server is going to go down or something. But you need to think about it. You need to be aware that it's there. So you need to be aware of what is under the hood. As Alok said, that you don't have to understand like every down to every electron. Did I disappear?
Yes,
I
that's
don't know.
magic.
So down to every little minute detail, but you need to understand what is happening under the hood so that you can provide better solutions or provide the right solution or more optimized solution, I would say. Because since there are so many offerings, there are so many cloud providers, everybody is going to have an edge. Everybody is going to have offer you something different as compared to every other cloud provider or every other service. So you need to understand what that difference is. And to understand that, you have to understand your basics. Okay, so that's about implementing the right cloud solution. And when you are building any distributed application, be it on cloud or not on cloud, on premises, when you are building a distributed application, you need to think about things like data structures. You need to think about things like system design. All of these things that you have learned in the past, they need to be there somewhere so that you can implement those when you're so when if you read about cloud design patterns, you would see that a lot of our data structure concepts are converted into these design patterns, right? So you need to understand these basics to be able to understand these design patterns. So when you're in school or in graduate course, you probably just mug up things like how the queue is supposed to be implemented or what the code is. But that's not, just try to understand the concept behind it, because nobody is going to ask you to implement a queue because it's there. You need to understand why and where can I use it. So try and understand how and why behind everything, and that's I think something that is important to understand. I just like to give one example here. So back in my graduation course, I had learned about this exponential backoff algorithm for computer networking. Okay, so this was part of some CSMA collision management kind of a resolution kind of a algorithm that was used in networking protocols, Ethernet protocols, because the media is shared and data is being sent by multiple endpoints on the same media. So how to avoid collision in that scenario? So that was the algorithm. And years later, when I was working with one of the third-party APIs, which was being used by a lot of clients, it used to cause delay. So one of my mentors reminded me of this algorithm and said that we can try something like that. So it's a basic retry pattern, right? When we are working with distributed applications, a basic retry pattern with the exponential backoff, because the kind of delay that API was introducing. And it just quickly, it took me back, and I remembered, oh, I know this algorithm because I have read it in my book, in the course. So there's everything that you've learned in your basics is going to be useful. So just try and remember that. Is there anything I wanted to say? And if in your current organization, if in your current role, you're not allowed or you're not making those decisions like what cloud offering to use or why to use something, if you're not calling those shots, even if somebody's telling you, okay, do this with Azure functions, that's all you're getting as an instruction. Try to ask questions. Maybe you won't get answers by your superiors, maybe, but try to ask those questions to yourselves. Try to find mentors who will answer those questions. Try to understand why this choice was made and question those choices so that you will learn in in that process as well. It's not just something that you make your code work on Azure functions. That's not the goal. Understand why everything is being used. Just basically understand how and why of everything that you're doing. I think that's very important, because it's very easy to just get it done because we can. There's so many tools, there's so many services, there's so many blogs. You just have to understand that you have to understand it as well. That's it.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Shweta, about always keeping on asking questions. And because the attitude of always questioning things, it always helps with coming us with more and more answers what's behind that layer. So
Yeah.
yep. And luckily I do have the privilege of asking very dumb questions to my mentors, and they're always very they're always very thoughtful enough to answer me in a very toned down way. So
Yeah, there are no
that's
dumb questions again. No dumb questions.
yep. Cool. So moving on to Ganesh. So Ganesh, you, like Alok, you also have a very diverse skill set, right? You had started with full stack development and now you're working as an amazing data engineer. So we can see data engineering and cloud engineering as two different verticals in a way, but they are also still, intertwined at some points. So what do you think that, this intersection, how important is it to learn both of these verticals, and how does it help you to deliver the best solutions for your customers?
Well, being an amazing data engineer is a lot of responsibilities, since you said that. But I'd like to add one point, which Shweta mentioned earlier, that uh, it it works, or it is working, is or it is working, that doesn't mean it is the right solution. So shifting that attitude is more important than it works attitude. Now going back to intersection between cloud native development and data engineering, I would say yes, they overlap with each other a lot. And when I see it, I see them as a pyramid of skill sets. So I am coming from web development or cloud native development. Then at the top, I would say there's a specific stacks, let's say AWS stack or the Microsoft stack or any other stacks, distributor processing, streams. Then Shweta mentioned earlier that distributed systems and everything, right? And under that, there's another layer, I would say cloud providers and on-premises systems. And beneath that, there's programming languages. There's different programming languages available to do different sort of tasks, right? They're optimized for particular type of jobs. Let's say Python is good for data engineering stuff. C Sharp, Golang, these languages are good for developing web servers, right? So having this knowledge helps a lot. And now at the end or at the base of that pyramid, I would say uh, data engineering specific tools, right? Let's say data warehousing, lakehouse architecture, Apache Spark, Data Factory, Azure Synapse Analytics, all these tools, right? So once you have, so you can either go from top to bottom or bottom to top. It's up to you. But in my opinion, going top to bottom helps a lot because along the way you have developed that system design thinking. You understand what distributor processing is. You understand all the concepts, right? What partitioning is, uh, how to or how what is horizontal scaling and all those things, right? Then it is very easy to understand why Apache Spark is very famous, right? So I think these are the intersections, right? I mean where these two things overlaps with each other. Now, how does it help? It helps a lot because when it comes to data engineering, let's say if somebody says, I want to develop one data pipeline, as a normal data engineer, that person would think that, okay, I'll develop a pipeline to fetch from that specific data source and put it into a specific destination, right? But I'm just giving my example. I see that problem as a two-way problem. I'll first think about data source, okay, and the data destination. Now I'll think that how can I generalize this and make it reusable or make it more generic, where it can support multiple data sources and multiple destinations. So that thinking helps a lot. Uh, and as a data engineer, you have to be flexible and very quick to adapt whatever tooling or situation that you are in, right? So basically, it goes back to unblocking yourself is one of the major thing that you need to do in order to grow as an engineer, right? So all these things helps a lot. Sometimes as a data engineer, people come to you and ask you to do ML ops, where you need to deploy machine learning models. Another day, somebody comes and tells you to develop DevOps pipelines, where they want you to develop or support semantic versioning, rollback support, and all those things, right? So if you have that background, then it's very easier to adapt to those technologies and deliver on the go. I mean, learn and deliver on the go. That's what Alok mentioned earlier, right? Yeah, that's how it helps. Being I mean having that knowledge of software engineering and data engineering. It's sort of having that blend of engineering mindset and that creative mindset. So
That's a very good point, Ganesh. This reminds me of a discussion that I had with one of our candidates. He's still working with us. So the discussion was very interesting because he is of data engineering background, but he was asking me questions about how we can optimize searching patterns and storage accounts. So if there is a millions of blobs, then how do we find for a specific blob? Because that is going to help him ultimately in his data engineering pipelines. So yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. That the intersection is pretty much important for both the ways, like you said. So moving on to Clint. Clint is our identity and access management expert. So anything related to authorization, authentication, and how to work with, a lot of people and how to administer cloud and governance for a huge company. Clint knows everything about it. But Clint, I know that there are problems with identity and access management. And so what are the challenges of working with IAM, and how does Microsoft ecosystem help you to tackle those challenges?
Well, thank you, Ron. But when you look at identity and access management, you could talk about this topic for maybe days. I won't bore you for a day or more. But if you look at these two pillars, it's basically authentication and authorization. Right? If you divide it into two things, it's who I say I am. I am who I say I am. Right? That is your authentication, and authorization is I have permissions to access a particular resource. These are the two, I believe, most important pillars of the Microsoft services because over 95% of your attacks and exploits can take place through these resources. So, in any large enterprise or any enterprise for that matter, this is quite a task to administer the authorization and access to different resources because anyone can be attacked using those two avenues. Now, Microsoft they do a lot of things to make access a little easier, but one of the most important things that I've noticed is the introduction of RBAC, role-based access control. Now, according to me, what any enterprise organization to do is think about a few things: who needs access, to what do they need access, and oh, you cannot see my finger. Who needs access, to what do they need access, and the last one is what is the least privileged role that I can assign someone so that they can do the job that they are assigned to. Right. So Microsoft has a lot of out of the box RBAC roles. I believe about 87 or 90, and they're growing day by day. That can fulfill these tasks. And if you take this one step further, you don't really have to assign someone a global admin role to maybe just add users, right? You can give them a simple role like a user admin role because that's the least privilege that they probably need to create users and manage users. Take this one step further in exchange. Let's give it a logical explanation or an example. Mahesh, a new employee, joins my organization. He's part of the exchange department and he is responsible for provisioning mailboxes. Now, I don't need to give him an EXO admin role because that role comes with a lot of responsibility and has access to a lot of permissions or a lot of different parts of Exchange. So I can create a custom role for this new employee who is a little wet behind the ears, so I have to take care of him. Right? So I create a custom role, and in that role, I only assign one particular command, which is new-exo mailbox. And using that role, I have limited Mahesh's risk of deleting mailboxes or doing anything else, right? Maybe after he's gone through the probation period of 6 months, maybe we can give him some more roles as a migration, create a custom role as a migration specialist. Or something. Now, another thing that you could think about is privileged identity management or PIM. So if Mahesh progresses and becomes an exchange admin, right, I can assign a PIM. I could put his role in the PIM bit, and that way Mahesh will only be able to be an exchange admin for a period of maybe 2 hours or 3 hours or 4, whatever you said. So that role, that elevated or privileged role, is not at risk of being taken over by someone else. Another thing you can do is MFA, multi-factor authentication. Let's say someone who already finds your password authenticates against your system. And this way, Mahesh will get a little notification on his phone saying, "Did you try to log in?" Mahesh can say, "No." So those are some ways that Microsoft makes life a little easier for administrators, because it is almost impossible for any administrator or any department for that matter to take care of just simplest resources in your organization.
Thanks, Clint. And you talked about global admin, but as a developer, I always want to be global admin because it makes my life easy while developing things. Everyone on this panel can relate to it because we do not want to chase other teammates to give me some access. But yeah, that's very
That's
important when it comes to deploying to production because everyone needs to have, the least privileged access. That's for sure. But yeah, a developer by heart. So there are some pains over there.
Yes, I used to love it as well. But
Yeah.
so when you work for a large organization, you need to follow the rules.
Yep. So guys, we have a couple of questions from chat. So what we can do is we can pick the generic ones at the end, but there is a very specific one by Sagar that how to set configuration values because we across different services because we work on different services and they need to be coupled together. So any ideas around this? I hope that you guys have read the question and anyone can pick it up.
I would say that that definitely is a pain point to maintain configuration values. So good ways are there are a lot of options in DevOps tools that we use. So there are libraries in Azure DevOps, but again, then you have to maintain those per environment, and that's a pain point again. But then you have if you have automation, so we love to automate. We are developers. We want to do the least work as much as possible, which is error prone, and this particular bit is definitely error prone. When you're moving from different environments, those variables can get confusing. So it's very important to ensure either knowledge base is maintained with documentation or some developer, whatever is feasible in your scenario. And the second thing is automate as much as possible. Write down scripts, write down wherever possible, automate, so that it's not your responsibility or one person's responsibility, it's the script's responsibility. And anybody can go and read the script and understand what variables are to be configured. And third thing is to something that to write down some sort of a validation test, like are these variables there, are these variables according to what they are expected to be. If you have time to write validation tests, do that'll be very helpful. I don't know if that answers this question. If that's
Yep. So Shweta, we can move on, and if Sagar has any more questions, then
sure.
they can reach out to you because
Yeah,
Shweta
yeah.
is also an architect, so she has a bird eye view of almost everything. So feel free to get in touch, and I'm sure like
Yes,
anyone
definitely.
from Rapid Cycle would be happy to help you out with all the questions. Yeah. Cool. So moving on, circling back to Alok, and like everyone knows that Alok has worked on different cloud providers. He has worked on DigitalOcean, AWS. He also has worked on Azure. So Alok, how has your experience been like while working with different cloud providers in terms of development, deployment, offerings, and do multi-cloud strategies help your customers in any way? If yes, then how?
Oh, that's a detailed question. I've worked mainly on Azure and AWS and a brief stint in DigitalOcean. So Azure and AWS cover almost 75% of the cloud market. And many clients have a multi-cloud strategy also. So they'll have solutions that will use some services from one cloud platform and some from another. And they do this to spread their risk, spread their dependency, uh, and also for the choice and flexibility. Uh, you asked about the differences, so let me just talk about a couple of differences that I noticed. So in my experience, the development tools around Azure are way better and preferable to me as a developer. So the Visual Studio ecosystem and the end-to-end integration that it has with Azure, with its plugins and whatnot. It's a way better development experience. For example, I'm writing Lambda functions right now, and we have chosen .NET runtime for those Lambda functions. If you do choose .NET runtime for your Lambda functions, then debugging them will be a pain in the neck. You'll find out. Whereas Azure Functions debugging is quite simple and straightforward in comparison. Another difference is that you will have to decide which cloud platform to choose according to the scenario. So in most enterprise or B2B scenarios, I have found that Azure offerings are way mature in the areas of identity, like Clint talked about, or centrally managing devices, or something like Intune, or integrating with some products that you're already using, some Microsoft products like Office 365 and so on. Chances are your organization is already using Microsoft software like Windows. If it is, then you are in an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, and this allows you to benefit from discounts and incentive if you're moving to Azure cloud. So that works perfectly. But you might go for AWS in B2C scenarios where all of this is not a concern. Uh, so yeah, the services offered by AWS and Azure are almost at parity. So what it comes down to is whether it's a B2C or B2B scenario, if has your client already invested significant amount of time and effort in one cloud platform, is what skill set your developers have, and at the end it comes down to cost and the development experience. I say cost at the end because most services the cost is pretty much the same, or the difference is very negligible between Azure and AWS. So yeah, so you talked about multi-cloud strategy. We at Rapid Circle are focused on Azure. But if a client comes to us that has already invested significant time and effort in, say, AWS, then we are adept in providing solutions to them there. So that's our strategy. And if they are not willing to switch. So yeah, I often find myself working in different cloud platforms, and that circles back to the earlier point about skill diversity. So this was about multi-cloud strategy and the differences. I hope I covered everything that I had in mind.
Yep, you did. Thanks, Alok. Good. Moving on to Shweta. So, a lot of both in AWS, Azure, GCPs, PaaS is a very popular term these days, right? Platform as a service, because cloud takes care of everything. We do not have to worry, like you said in the
Yeah.
previous talk.
Yeah.
So, how do PaaS services help? And what do you think about PaaS services from an architectural perspective?
Okay. So PaaS is definitely helpful. I have worked on scenarios where PaaS wasn't around, and definitely, when we had a server that was on client side in US, and we had to debug and analyze performance issues by logging onto the server through VPN, and it was terribly slow because obviously we were debugging stuff on the development server, and there is again, when it's a development environment, they're not going to spend a lot of cost over there, so it was not very sophisticated infra, and then in that scenario developer productivity reduces. So with PaaS, first and foremost thing that I think has helped me as a developer, before I go into the architectural side of it, as a developer, it improves productivity of your developers because information is provided to you in terms of features. A lot of information is given to you by these services. Like for example, if we focus on to Azure App Service, right? Azure App Service is a solution which provides you great insights. So earlier, if you had some sort of memory leak or any CPU exhaustion kind of a thing, then you had to go to the server. You had to understand where to look, right? You probably even don't, as a junior developer, you don't even know where to look for the problem. With app service and everything on the portal, okay, there are 5 things they have listed over here. At least I'll go through them, and then understand whether it's there is any problem. Like TCP connections, I don't remember thinking about TCP connections in earlier years of my life when um, because probably nobody was around to tell me, or maybe I didn't pay attention, I don't know, but I didn't think about those things. With app services and all of these platform as service features, all of these things are available to you. So now you can understand these things better and you utilize them to improve performance, to debug issues. Also, another very important point is scaling. Scaling is a really big advantage when it comes to PaaS, right? When you want to scale your on-site infrastructure, on-premise infrastructure, or even VMs, it's going to take downtime. It's going to take some time for you to set up another VM, ensure that everything is copied over and everything is, the environment is as exactly as the previous one that you had. You're just scaling up one instance, but it going to require a lot of time to ensure that it's as is. But with app services, you can quickly scale up. Third advantage is automation. With all the rich set of features that these platform as services offerings provide, there are APIs, there are commands which help you to automate um, things, and that reduces human errors. As I even mentioned in the DevOps, the configuration thing, that that was asked, it reduces when you automate things, like when you auto scale. So let's say you can, in app services, you can put rules like auto scale when my um, with some sort of metrics that are available, like CPU exhaustion, memory exhaustion, and all of that, and then it'll take care of it automatically, which is, it'll send out alerts. So you don't even have to remember things, you don't have to write down things. So manual effort is reduced, human errors are reduced, dependency on infrastructure teams reduces. So let's face it, when people are working together, there's going to be some sort of delay, there's some going to be some sort of human emotions involved. So all of that also goes away. um, Anything else I wanted to mention? Yeah, I think with the rich set of features and the abstraction is all obviously worth it, because then you can focus on what's important. So that is definitely the advantage of using pass and choosing pass. But when you want more control over your infrastructure, when you're sure about things, you've been there, you've done that, then you obviously can go for infrastructure and have more control of your on your VMs and do all of that. But then you lose out on all of these amazing features. So you might have to custom build some sort of logging mechanism. You might have to employ a team to look after the system logs and everything. So it's a trade-off, but definitely as a developer and as an architect, when it comes to scaling at enterprise level, platform as a services definitely helps and is a really good solution to go towards.
Those are very great examples, Shweta, because a lot of people can relate to the problems that you were talking about. Because app
Yeah,
service is one of the very common services, so
yeah.
I think that it will definitely help the audience
Yeah,
while
you
relating
just
to
right click and publish. You people, you have no idea of that pain of logging into a server and copying, pasting.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to Ganesh. So Ganesh, Shweta has been talking about things from architectural perspective, right? And because you are an amazing data engineer, so how do modern data architects, how does a modern data architecture look like while talking in terms of cloud?
Well, um, before answering that question, I'd like to set a premise by defining what modern data architects, modern data platforms are, and why they have evolved and called as a so-called modern data platforms, right? So now going back to conventional data engineering or conventional architectures or conventional data platforms, they have been there for so long, and they have their own pros and cons, right? So, and I recently started as a data engineer, so I don't have enough knowledge about conventional methods of data engineering, right? But when I look at it, I can say that it can be seen as a traditional hotel business and Airbnb, right? Where traditional platform can be seen as a hotel business and Airbnb can be seen as a modern data platform, where it gives lots of flexibility and to end users as well as uh, hosters, right? Also, this was for non-technical people, but when it comes to technical people, then it can be also seen as how cloud hosting have evolved so far from infrastructure as a platform to platform as a service and now serverless, right? So these platforms have evolved to solve um, pain points that have been there in conventional architectures. Now, when we talk about modern data oriented architectures, then some people, there are so many open source platforms available. These solves different kind of problems. Let's say scaling, right? Now these days, cloud providers are providing fast, unlimited scale, low overhead infrastructure to process huge volumes of data. Previously in traditional architecture, it wasn't um, it was possible, but the cost was too high, and it was very difficult to adopt when it comes to small or mid-sized businesses. Now these guys, small or mid-sized businesses, can adopt these technologies and be a data-driven company. That's where modern data architecture or modern data platforms helps. These are fast, unlimited scale, lower overhead, and these are unified by SQL. So all these platforms support SQL in addition to programming APIs, let's say Scala or Python. And there have been efforts put in to support other programming languages. But now going back to benefits, when it scales from let's say 1x to 100x, uh, performance increase in processing power, then the entire thinking process about building platforms changes a lot. And that's have been I mean that's that is uh, helping a lot uh, helping us a lot as a data engineer to develop scalable pipelines. So I think it's all there. In modern data platforms, there are open data formats, reduced latency, open data access. All these features are there. There's very hard concept right now in data engineering field, which is data mesh. Um, it is nothing but microservices version for data services. That's how I look at it. So all these things are evolving to solve different sort of problems. So yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm not going into detail only because it gets too technical and it doesn't. I mean, if have any technical questions on these sort of things, then we can take it offline. So, but yeah, I'll stop here.
Thanks, Ganesh, and the microservices for data services. So this is exactly what we talked about, being the intersection of cloud native and data engineering side of things. So that's very well put. So yeah, thanks for your answer, Ganesh. Now, Clint, so this question is for you because you have been working a lot on cloud administration, and your customer is a very huge organization which has more than 200,000 employees. So how does automation using code come into the picture, and how does it help you to solve problems at such a big scale?
Well, see, Rohan, when you talk about 200,000 plus employees, it's not just 200,000 objects that you deal with, right? Because they in turn come with their own devices. So that's 400,000, 200,000 plus 400,000, that's 600,000. They in turn have mailboxes, they have shared mailboxes, they have multiple resources assigned to them. And this number or number of objects grow to about 1 million. These million objects or these million objects have access to many services. Let's say they have access to 10 services. It's exponential growth, right? It's impossible for a human being or even a department for that matter to monitor where all these to monitor all these objects and monitor or access or no access to all these resources, right? Thus, you need automation. I personally love writing code and I love automating things and I love like physical code. Right? So that's why I love to work on automation, where I can detect anomalies. Yes, Microsoft does provide you with a lot of out-of-the-box reports, but all these reports are not catered towards an organization. For example, let's use the example of Mahesh earlier, right? Mahesh is an exchange admin now. He has progressed through the ranks and he's an exchange administrator. His department only takes care of things related to exchange. And in these 1 million objects, noticed that Mahesh's role changed from exchange admin to a SharePoint admin. But he's in a department that only takes care of exchange. Now, this small change in the billions of changes that take place in a day in a large organization will go unnoticed if it's just to the naked eye. But if you have automation, it goes through all these changes that take place in an organization and can send notifications. It can generate an email that can be sent to Mahesh's manager, who might scold him. But yeah, so things like that will go unnoticed in a large organization if you don't automate things. You can also bulk automate things like creating users, deleting users, and monitoring these objects, right? So, like Ganesh said, it's big data. All this data is captured and data is analyzed. This data can be presented to departments, and a case can be made. Management cannot look at CSV files or Excel files. Right? They like to look at something visual. So we can present this data, which can be stored in a proper storage container, presented in your Power BI. So it can be highlighted to the right people, and they can make the right decision. After decisions are made, these objects can then be taken care of by either deleting or addressing it uh, by talking to maybe my saying, dude, you're in the exchange department. Why do you have a SharePoint admin role? Right? Something like that. Sorry, Mahesh, using your name over and over again. It's an internal joke. Yeah, so this is what
That's good. Thanks, Clint. Yeah, so I can imagine that, because we all love writing code and how this, has an implementation and effect on an impact on a million um, objects out there. So that's definitely a good thing to have. All right, so let's take a look at questions. So unless there is anything else that anyone would like to bring up or discuss, we can take a look at questions and try to answer them. So there is an interesting question though. So this question is from anonymous. So let's give it that way. Is the cloud consultant role limited to advisory or actual action? Like, is it implementing stuff for client? And how is it different from typical IT service providers? And I can relate to this question so much because I had the same question before I had started working. So this is a very great question. And so anyone would like to pick this up, please? So is it just do we just advise? Do we just consult? Or do we also implement things?
I would say it depends. Okay, Alok, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think Ganesh was saying something.
Good
it
escape,
was me,
Alok.
but Shweta, please go on.
No. Go ahead. I've answered. Just
Okay, so in my opinion, I think when that word comes up, consultant, it's a very vague term, and that might be kept ambiguous term intentionally. That's I mean, that's what I think. But it depends where you are working or for which employer you are working. In Rapid Circle, there are people like me, Shweta, Alok, and so many other people who when we say cloud consultant, we play different sort of roles. We come up with different solutions. You can think these solutions as an advices, but we also help them to implement them. So it boils down to for which company you are working for, and understanding your job. But that's again very vague. But I mean, it depends on what you or how you handle that situation. So I mean, I'm not answering this question, but this is how it is. It is ambiguous.
So
Yeah, and
another
sorry, one point I would like to add is whether you are just in an advisory role, be always sure that there is a way that you can also implement it, even if you are in an advisory role. So you, so that the tip to becoming, I don't think that it's like I'm a great consultant, that's why I'm giving a tip, but that's what I strive for, is you are a good consultant only if you can put that solution through end to end. If you're consulting, even if you're advising, you should be able to, deliver it as well.
And another way that I personally look at it is that this is also about frame of reference. So, for example, software engineers, they build products, and consultants, they know how to use these products to deliver something valuable for their customers. So, I have not developed app service, I have not developed Azure functions, but I do know how to make use of them, how to configure them, and how to provide some value for my customers. So, talking about frame of reference, for example, we have our own product Leap DNA, for which Shweta and Ganesh both have worked on, right? So they are software engineers for it, but their customers, they're going to be consultants of Leap DNA, right? So it's again a frame of reference kind of thing. That's how I see it, because it makes it easy for me to make it understand to my friends and family. All right. So yeah, there don't seem to be any more questions. So there is a question about FIDO to authentication, but we don't have a lot of time to deep dive into technical stuff. But
Yeah.
Vinod, please feel free to reach out to us. Do
Yeah.
not reach out to me because I do not know what that is, but you can reach out to Shweta or other folks. Okay.
Yeah, even
So
I am not very aware of the technical details, but you can, maybe we can post a few links which you can take a look at. And Active Directory also implements it as a Windows Hello for Business with a passwordless authentication. So these are features that are provided to you as passwordless authentication. Behind it, the FIDO protocol is being used. So you can even take a look at that, so that'll make you understand what the use of it is, and then you can deep dive into the technical implementation of it.
sounds good. So thanks a lot everyone for joining. And I'm going to get a green tea because my morning has been a bit lousy because I woke up a bit late. So yeah, let's kick off our regular Saturday routine. But thanks a lot for joining, and I hope it helped out everyone out there. And please tune in for upcoming sessions of RC Talks. We are going to be talking to more and more experts. And if you have any suggestions for us, if you want us to talk about something else which interests you more, then we will try to arrange it like as soon as possible. All right. So please feel free to reach out to. As you can see on your screen, we have got Twitter handles of our speakers. So this is where you can contact them and ask your questions if you have any. Okay, but let's see you soon on our third session of RC Talks. Okay, that's it. So we can conclude this session. Thanks a lot, everyone, and thank you so much,
Thank
speakers, for
you.
joining in.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Rohan.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Yes. Bye
Aishwarya.
bye.
Bye
Thanks.
bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Bye bye. Where?